All's Fair is Ryan Murphy's latest show to be released on Hulu, and with me literally seeing this show being advertised on social media, in the cinema, and on the streets, my susceptible self had to give it a watch. With it being focused around an all-female law firm which is led by Kim Kardashian as Allura Grant, these first 3 episodes did exactly what I kind of expected it to do. It painted men in a bad light, but it also had a ton of drama within the story. So with that, let's dive into these first 3 episodes, discuss the ending, and I'll share what I thought of it. Here is All's Fair episodes 1, 2, and 3 ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. My review of the episodes. If I'm being honest, with the way that the show has started, it's not Ryan Murphy's best, and I'm surprised that Hulu gave him a budget of almost $70 million to make this show. It doesn't truly need it, and it's a show that I don't think is actually going to have a lot to say for itself. It's extremely dramatic, over the top, and it doesn't feel that realistic in the slightest. I also thought it was rather interesting that it's a show about putting down men to a degree, and it's written by a man, and the first 3 episodes were directed by men. So I kind of feel like if you're making a show about women empowerment, you should probably have women leading the way behind the scenes too, not just in front of the camera. The story within the episodes did get better the more that it went on, but I think it's going to be a relatively predictable story. The show needed Kim Kardashian's character to undergo a divorce, because if the show was just about the trio taking on different cases, it would have got rather boring very quickly. This does feel like a Ryan Murphy show, from the tone of it to the cast that he's got on board and even the way that it looks. He probably has the numbers in his phone of the people that are featured in the Murphyverse, and he writes the characters with them in mind, which I think is fair. There were some bold moments in these first episodes that took me by surprise. Moments such as Dee walking off the balcony when she realized that there was no escaping the debt that her husband had put her in, and also the attack that Leanne did on her former husband despite getting a large settlement from him. It showed the lasting mental effects that the behaviors in marriage can have on people and how some can see no way out, and for others, the financial gain isn't what eases the mind when the loss of true love and pain is what they actually felt. When it comes to Kim Kardashian's performance, listen, I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's as bad as what I thought it would be. I almost expected her to be worse than what she actually was, but then I should have looked at when she was in American Horror Story. She wasn't the worst in that season, Cara Delevingne was, so her performance is of a similar level to that. In terms of Sarah Paulson, she's definitely the best performer in the show. Her character Cara is just outright brutal and bitter to the bone with the jealousy that she has, and it's just so humorous and really does complement the dynamic well. The character that I'm probably finding the most humorous and is the most animated in the show is Emerald. Niecy Nash is a staple Ryan Murphy incorporation when it comes to his shows in the modern day, but the personality that Emerald has and the ruthlessness that we saw from her is something that did make me laugh when she was on screen. In terms of if this show is worth a watch, so far, I don't really know if it is. I'd say that it's pretty easy to follow, to be honest, and it's relatively two-dimensional, so you're not going to get lost in the story. That's solely based on these 3 episodes right now though, and it could change with time. I'd say stick it on if you're into a Ryan Murphy show so you can forge your own opinion, but what I will say is that it could be one of the worst starts to a Ryan Murphy show in quite some time. It's below the Capote show in my opinion. Allura. Allura's story in the show is one that's particularly interesting. She built a career in building a law firm in which she only represented women because 10 years ago, when working for the firm that Dina was initially in, she saw what working for men was like with the mindset of women should be seen and not heard. And then with that, it painted her vision of wanting to give women the best chance possible when coming up against their husbands in the divorce settlements. However, what we saw happening with her is that with Chase, her husband, now wanting a divorce, the shoe was then put on the other foot and we saw how she felt being sat on the other side of the table. In her situation, Chase had been cheating on her, and for representation, he went to Sarah Paulson's character, Carr, who was envious of the fact that 10 years ago, Allura and Liberty decided to walk away and not invite her to the party. So Allura was essentially facing her worst enemy, but also somebody that was as bold, strong, and fierce in an argument as what she was. Even though Chase had been a serial cheater to Allura, he was still going after 50% of what they had, despite the fact that he was in the wrong and was unfaithful. But most importantly, for her, he was going after 50% of the law firm that she built, which was all built on the back of wanting to stand up for women who were being pushed to the side in their marriage and being taken advantage of. With Allura being somebody that couldn't have children and Chase and her freezing embryos with the hopes of having children in the future once their careers were more established, With them now becoming part of the marital property, which meant that she technically couldn't touch them, she forged his signature and started the procedure in trying to get pregnant. This lent into the revenge side of her mindset that she had and that she put upon her clients too, as after all, all's fair in love and war. As Chase knew nothing about it, it meant that it was then going to be taken out of the divorce proceedings, with Milan mentioning how she was going to be a strong woman and raise the kid that Chase got her pregnant with by herself without Chase's involvement is something that inspired Allura, and that's why she ultimately went on to do that during the ending. So even though she won't want Chase involved in the children's lives if it's successful, it's still a massive act of betrayal. So in my mind, it did kind of paint Allura as being just as bad as some of the men that walked into her office. Liberty. Liberty is the softer and less brutal of the two characters that started the law firm. However, what we saw with her in the opening 3 episodes is that unlike Allura, who hasn't let her work faze her when it comes to her own love life, Liberty almost sees marriage as a prison and a thing that a lot of the time becomes unsuccessful and eventually causes pain. This is why she initially denied the proposal that her boyfriend Dr. Reggie, who was viewed as a good guy, did. However, after being persuaded by her friends, she saw that not all men are actually bad and that there can be some good ones that are out there, so she took the leap and proposed to him. Liberty feels like the character that might well be successful in her love life like Dina, but with it being a Ryan Murphy show, you never know, there could be twists along the way where that could all change. She seems to be paranoid about marriage, so I imagine that will probably bleed into the relationship. Dina. Dina's character is one that almost shows the more human side to the show. She's the older woman that's gone through life, had a fierce law career when fighting with the men in the firm, made an enemy of Carr, and now she was caring for Doug, her husband, who was dying of cancer. She was almost looking on at the girls that were doing their best to try and stay young in the name of just taking care of themselves and telling them how no matter what they did on the outside to try and look young, they couldn't actually avoid aging. Her story, even with Doug, is one that seems to be set on showing us that death is something that's unavoidable. You live, you get sick, and you die, so you almost have to make the most of life for what it is. That's at least how I interpreted her story for the first part of the show, and I imagine with Doug getting the news that he didn't have much time, that'll also come to light too and support the point even more. Dina, like Liberty, is somebody that found a man that wasn't one of the ones that they saw when they handled their clients. He didn't try to change her, wasn't coercive, and also didn't try to make her do things that she didn't want. So even though she's got a fierce exterior, her home was a place of love. That's why when she kissed somebody else, aligning with the cheating that Chase was doing, it showed that even the women can do wrong in some of the situations, but unlike Chase, she told Doug instantly when she got back home. So, there you have it, a review of All's Fair, episodes 1, 2 and 3, and the ending explained. If you want to see more videos on your favourite TV series and movies being broken down, then check the playlist below, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future videos. What did you think of this show? Share your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.